What's up, everybody? Welcome into the Wrestling Mat. That's the show. There it is. It's at thewrestlingmatshow.com. Welcome in. For those of you who are watching this live on the first run, you must be a Mat member. That's right. We are live this morning at 11 a.m. Eastern for Mat members. Everybody else will get this show at 1 p.m. Eastern in our normal time slot, but wanted to give the members a little bit something else that they can get by becoming a Mat member, which starts at just $2.99. Whether you're joining us and you're not a Mat member, watching us here at the WrestlingMatShow.com, thank you, hello. Whether you're listening to us via podcasts, via the Believe Network, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Rate, review, subscribe there if you have not done so yet in terms of the podcast. Make sure you do that because it's another way to take in the show. But if you're listening to us on the Believe Network, thank you very much. Thank you for listening to us in podcast form. But remember, you can become a Mat member for as low as just $2.99 a month, which also gets you discounts on merchandise. ProWrestlingTees.com/TheWrestlingMat now has Wrestling Mat t-shirts. How about that? That is available for you. Hopefully you go check that out. And if that is the case, maybe head over to the community page over at thewrestlingmatshow.com for members, and you'll find a discount code. A discount code available for Wrestling Mat members now on our community page here right now at thewrestlingmatshow.com. So plenty of ways to support the show. But if you are watching the show live at 11 a.m. this morning, you are a Mat member. What up to Frank? What up to Nerdy Dude? Hello. Hopefully you're all doing well out there. Coming up this week, as I said, I won't be doing live shows, but we still have brand new shows for you coming your way tomorrow, Wednesday, and Thursday. Wednesday will be my top 5 Hell in a Cell matches. 52 Hell in a Cell matches have already happened in WWE history, going back to Bad Blood 1997, the very first one, Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker. We have not seen a Hell in a Cell match since WrestleMania 39 when it was Edge and Finn Balor. However, we are going to see one at Bad Blood. We will talk about that on the program today. CM Punk's promo. But on tomorrow's episode, my top 5 Hell in a Cell matches. Love to hear what your thoughts are on that. And we put that up on our community page as well. You can already chime in about that. On Thursday, you will be getting an episode of me discussing my top 5 wrestlers of the year with lots of honorable mentions. Not easy to put that list together. Admittedly, my number 5 slot could have went to multiple people. But I give you my top 5 wrestlers of the year so far. And this is based on my opinion. My criteria doesn't necessarily mean championship victories and wins-loss records and how much you have or haven't appeared or main event. No, it's just about the 5 people who I think have had the best year, have been the most interesting in professional wrestling. Love to get your thoughts on that. But that'll be coming your way Thursday, and then back to live on Friday with AEW news coming off of Dynamite, since I won't be doing the live show on Thursday. We'll also be talking about what's going on with SmackDown and WWE. Whatever the news is, we'll be hitting that live on Friday. So look forward to that with you guys. Also for Mat members, next week I'm going to be going live at 7 Eastern next Thursday night. That is September 26th to talk about the Mr. McMahon documentary. It airs, it hits Netflix on Wednesday, the 25th, but we'll be going live 7 p.m. Eastern on Thursday, 9/26, September 26th, to talk about the documentary, what I know about the documentary, and all of that. So plenty to look forward to. I will give you a heads up. We may be doing our live episode watch party Friday for SmackDown this week. Just giving you a heads up on that. Not locked in yet, but it very well could be this Friday SmackDown. So stay tuned for that. We have a poll up right now on our community page at thewrestlingmatshow.com asking you your favorite part of Monday Night Raw. And we're going to get into, here's what we're going to get into today. We're going to talk about Punk's promo. We'll open the show. I want to talk about the face-off between Braun Breaker and Jey Uso and how some of the things that were mentioned got my wheels turning about what Jey could be doing after Braun Breaker. I want to talk about the Bronson Reed and Braun Strowman segment and how much I think it exemplifies the best parts of pro wrestling. And based on the report from John Orland and the Puck newsletter, seems like we have a lot more reported details of the AEW television deal. All of that is coming your way on today's show, but I thank the Matt members who are with me from the jump here at 11 a.m. Eastern. If you'd like to become a Matt member and you're watching, just hit that join button down below or head over to the WrestlingMatchShow.com. It's always right above Todd, as you know, and you can find out so much more on how you can become a member, starting at just $2.99. But hello to Franklin. Hello to Nerdy Dude. Glad to see you already used the code. Got your shirt. Some shirts have been ordered already. Hopefully you're checking those out at ProWrestlingTees.com/TheWrestlingMat. And you can do that, by the way. Whether you're a Matt member or not, you just get a discount if you're a Matt member, which is available on our member community page tab at thewrestlingmatchshow.com. So if you'd like to become a Matt member, there's a perk, just one of many perks for you if you're a Matt member. But if you're not, you can always still get the shirt. By the way, that discount code only works for our merch at the Wrestling Matt page, nowhere else on Pro Wrestling Tees. So let's get into the show now. CM Punk opening the show, clearly trying to grab viewers. They made a point to say, I believe they made a point to say, or it was reported he was going to open the show. And I thought CM Punk cut a promo that I have been missing from CM Punk. CM Punk, to me, has been a little too happy. Has not had the same bite that I remember from CM Punk, especially when you go back 10 years and to 2011 and all that. Those type of CM Punk promos with the passion and the bite to them and a little cutting at times and very real and not happy. Those promos, I don't think we've heard enough of. For as good as this feud has been with Drew McIntyre, and let's be honest, it's really Punk's only feud since he's returned. Unbelievably, 10 months ago already at this time. Can you believe that? Punk's been back in WWE for 10 months already? 10 months. And I don't think we've gotten a top tier CM Punk promo. We've gotten some good ones. He's certainly not a bad talker. He's great on the mic. I think the bar is different, though, for him. I think I expect more from CM Punk because it's how he's made his name. I've talked so much about how I don't need to see CM Punk wrestle that much. And I don't. I think building to his matches and building to big matches, not random, not a Raw here and there. There is a special attraction nature to CM Punk matches. It's about the build. CM Punk cut a promo on Monday Night Raw that was not about playing to the crowd. That was not about pandering, which I think he's honestly done too much of, which Drew has latched onto. And you know what? Part of that could be part of the story as well. I'm not doubting that. I don't like to see CM Punk show up in suits at WWE events. That's Cody. Let Cody go do that. Let Miz go do that. To me, that's not Punk. His name is literally, it's in the name. I don't think CM Punk appearing as CM Punk in a WWE fashion should be that guy in a suit. Should be that guy that's welcoming us to Monday Night Raw, that is very happy to be in front of the crowd. I don't think that's him. I don't think that's... And everybody has to evolve. I get that. But to me, CM Punk is the guy that people weren't supposed to cheer, according to the company. But he had so many attributes that people resonated with because of his words, That is why he became that anti-hero, that anti-establishment. And you can't be like that forever, because at some point you do get accepted by the masses if you're that popular. And the company has to go with that. And the reason CM Punk was brought back to WWE last November was because they felt, and apparently correctly so, he was worth it. He was worth bringing back to the company because of the fan base, because of the merch he can move, because they think he can be a star, and he has been for them. He has been very important to WWE's success in the last 10 months. He's had the best ongoing story, the most compelling story with Drew McIntyre, and he's done that for the most part on a microphone. But I think there's been too much of I'm happy to be back. I'm signing autographs. Punk always acknowledged who the people were that were backing him up. But he didn't have to try as hard to do that. And it feels like at times he's going overboard. And it doesn't feel like that's who CM Punk is as a wrestling character that people resonated with and loved. But the promo he cut last night on Drew McIntyre was a CM Punk wrestling promo. Not about injury, not about getting back in front of the fans. That was CM Punk honed in completely on Drew McIntyre. Honed in on a match that even he said his family doesn't want him to have. True or not, that is how you sell a match. You sell the brutality of the match. Punk admitting this is a dangerous place to go. Punk talking about the angel versus the devil and becoming the devil. Yeah, it harkened back a little bit to the stuff he did in Ring of Honor. It harkened back a little bit to MJF talking about that stuff during their feud. I want that CM Punk. That is a compelling character to me. You can go back and forth and take your shots on social media and family and achievements and all of that. We're past all that stuff. We're past the pettiness. This is now about violence. This is now about ending someone else's career. And Punk honed in on that last night. He was serious. There was a different inflection in his voice. He didn't yell. He was very serious. He was very to the point. He was deadly serious, if you will. And because of that, I heard someone who I knew was ready to put everything else aside and go in there and fight like hell against the person he hates the most. I didn't come back here, he said, to have a mortal enemy, but I have one now. That line to me is the difference between happy to be here, happy to be back, happy to still have a career, CM Punk, and okay, I've been back for 10 months at this point in time. This is not about being happy to be here anymore. I was happy to get back in the ring at SummerSlam. I was happy to defeat Drew McIntyre in the strap match. I'm not happy anymore. Now I'm angry. Now I'm locked in. Now I am ready to fight for my life. That is how you sell a pay-per-view level main event. How you sell the third match in a heated rivalry. How you sell Hell in a Cell. 52 times WWE has put that match on. Too many times that match has been put on because it was the name of the show. And I will discuss that on tomorrow's episode about the top 5 matches, but how I went through that list and saw so many random matches that just happened to get shoehorned in. A feud was shoehorned into a Hell in a Cell match. Ridiculous. Stupid. I was happy that I looked back and saw, hey, they haven't done one of these in over a year. You think about it. Hell in a Cell debuted 27 years ago. Almost 27 years ago. This will be the 53rd Hell in a Cell match. That's 2 a year. Just by average. It's the most demonic structure, dangerous, blah, blah, blah. There shouldn't be 2 of those a year. The average should not be 2 a year. 1 a year, maybe. It's why Hangman and Swerve was so special. Why they went to the lengths that they did. You can't do that all the time. You can't. It takes away from it. You'll hear me talk about it tomorrow. There's a Rusev Roman Reigns U.S. title Hell in a Cell match. Does anybody remember that? Does anybody remember how heated that feud got that they had to put that in Hell in a Cell? No. No. Navy just said, Hell in a Cell, TLC Extreme Rules. These pay-per-view names shouldn't exist. Franklin said, hated match theme PLEs. I agree with that. TNA did this with Lockdown. I went to one of those. TNA did Lockdown for a few years. Every match is in a cage. And I remember this was a time when I was very much around TNA. And I can't remember who had the match. But they were trying to think of a finish. You know how hard it is to do 5 or 6 cage matches with different finishes that stand out? They were trying to work some kind of low blow weapon spot. I can't even remember who it was. Because they needed it to be something different. Hell in a Cell matches on their own, one at a time, need to be something different from the last one, much less the one that happened on the very same show. So hard to do. The fact that we have not had a Hell in a Cell since last year's WrestleMania is going to make life a lot easier on CM Punk and Drew McIntyre. The fact that there is only one Hell in a Cell match, which we will see. Does it main event? God, Cody and Roman on the same side it's tough to follow that unless that opens the show and the cell closes or vice versa. But Punk brought up, I'm going to make you bleed. And he did say, can't promise everything. Can't promise I'm going to kill you. I'm going in there with that thought. But he did say, I'm going to make you bleed. And I did like, that's very old school of Punk. To me, when a babyface says something, if he's that definitive about saying something, you pretty much have to follow through. A heel can lie, but if a babyface says something, says he's definitely going to do it, kind of has to. And we talked about last week that blood has found its way back into WWE. Cody and The Rock. Seth coughing up blood because of Bronson. Punk getting dumped and being bloody. Punk getting bloodied recently. You have to go there. Can't be everything. But the door is open for that to happen. And Punk bringing it up last night tells me it's going to happen. Navy said, War Games Blood and Guts annoys me too, just having the match because of the time of the year, even if the match is fine, the build isn't. Yeah, I don't want to know when Blood and Guts is coming. I think AEW does a little bit of a better job about that. Same thing with War Games. I think when you look at the last couple years of War Games on the men's side, the Bloodline won from a couple years ago. Let's put together a team to stop them. They couldn't do it. Last year with Judgment Day and Randy and all them, okay. That one, at least I understood. You're fighting a faction. I feel like the women's ones have been thrown together. I think you end up needing to find team members, and that gets shoehorned in. I don't see the obvious women's War Games match this year. I don't think it's even close. What do you do? Do you do it? Is it like Liv, Nia, Tiffany? Like right there, I'm even struggling. And then, I don't know, you put in the Unholy Alliance, and then it's what? Jade, Bianca, Bailey, I don't even know. I don't know if that women's match really exists. And the men's match this year seems like, and we'll get to this in a second, seems like it's going to be more of a bloodline thing. But yeah, shoehorning a feud into a predetermined, which is insane to even say because everything in wrestling is predetermined. But when you know it's absolutely booked and you have to work a feud into a cage, work a feud into Hell in a Cell and not the other way around, it's not done correctly. But Punk's promo sold the importance of what it is to step inside Hell in a Cell and sold the importance of what it means for him to step inside Hell in a Cell. That is the Punk I want to hear. That's the Punk that makes me sit up and go, yes, you do have my attention now. A couple of comments here. Nerdy Dude says, Punk is not a babyface, in my opinion. Franklin says, not a babyface in the traditional sense, but crowd aspect, he is. And I get it. As Nerdy Dude says, Drew has a point to hate, and I get that. I think that is a good part of pro wrestling. Now, I think they have positioned in the last probably month or so, Drew is more of the clear-cut heel, or more of a, not completely, and Punk as the babyface, which is fine. Listen, Punk sells T-shirts because people like him. That's why he has so many. Drew is not worried about T-shirt sales, nor should he be. He's more of a full-on heel. Some of that does become a company thing, does become a marketing thing. That's the nature of it. That's why John Cena was a babyface forever, because there's a business involved with this. But I think CM Punk had a CM Punk promo that sold a match. I don't know if he's had a promo that has sold a match like that since he's come back. Not to say he's been bad, but because the bar, I think, is so high. I think he cut a promo on Raw to sell a match, and he did. And I look forward to that match. Let's talk about Braun Breaker and Jey Uso. We're going to see the Intercontinental Championship match next week, so it doesn't get on Bad Blood yet. I thought Braun had his best night on the microphone on the main roster. I thought he was confident. I thought he delivered his lines believably. I don't think he got lost in it. I think there was a good amount of intensity in his promo. I have said at times, and I had dealt with him, that he didn't hit the right beats as a babyface with his promo. He didn't give us enough when we were interviewing him. I thought he was a little too, not goody two shoes, but not a fiery enough babyface promo. didn't give the people enough reason to get behind him with his words. You know what he can do in the ring. He's impressive. He's intense. The spear is second to none in the company right now, which is going to come into play in this match. And when they brought him over to Raw, it was about him wrecking shop. Not talking as much. Talking here and there, telling Adam Pearce, cool, you don't want to deal with this the right way? I'll take care of it. Sending Ricochet on his way, beating people up, spearing them, whatever it may be. But not a lot of talking. Last night, with his jacket, with his Intercontinental champion, he came out as a confident champion. He looked like a guy who has built confidence, who delivered the promo he delivered, which wasn't a total heel promo. A lot of the stuff he said, which is always the mark of a great heel, there were shades of gray. You tell Jey Uso, in 6 months, I've done more than you've done in 14 years. He wasn't necessarily wrong about that. Jey Uso has been in the company for 14 years. He's one of the most decorated tag team champions of all time. But he's got a big 0 in the singles title column. He has been a singles wrestler and featured as such for more than a year. He came to Raw, won the tag titles again with Cody Rhodes. He went backwards. He was not able to defeat Roman Reigns for the Undisputed Championship at last year's SummerSlam. He has unsuccessfully challenged Damian Priest for the World Heavyweight Championship at Backlash this year. He has not done what Braun Breaker has done. Braun Breaker's a 2-time NXT champion. Braun Breaker is the Intercontinental champion. Braun Breaker defeated one of the best superstars of the last decade in WWE in Sami Zayn to become Intercontinental champion. Jey Uso's over. Jey Uso's got a bunch of merch. Jey Uso says yeet and the people are with him, but he hasn't gotten the job done. And Braun Breaker was making that point. Correctly so. But very easily pointed at one of the most over baby faces in the whole company. It's going to get booed. Jay responds, I've been here for 14 years. I've been winning championships the whole time, blah, 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 blah. The line about Braun's NFL career being short. It's a good shot back. It pissed Braun off. So what does Braun do? He hits him. And then Braun lines up the spear, and Jay hits his spear instead. Now, it's the best Jay's spear has looked because it was really all about Braun's momentum that he picked up going back and forth and just catching him there. Because typically Jay's spear kind of just floats him through the air. He catches him like this. It's the hug spear. Whereas Braun Breaker cuts you in half, wants to run through you. The speed, all that, the coyote cam, showing how much speed he picks up going off the ropes. That stuff jumps out to me. That's what makes it a better spear, which is what we saw at the end of the show. But I want to hone in on this. Braun talked to Jay about why he has struggled. Braun said, I didn't need to use my uncle, my father, my family name to get to where I am. You did, and you still need them. He made a point to connect the fact that Jay's been on his own on Monday Night Raw, away from Jimmy, away from Roman, away from the bloodline, away from his blood family. And Braun pointed to that as the reason why Jay has not had the same success that Braun has had. And I actually liked that Braun said all that stuff for his own sake, because you know what? It kind of explains the Braun Breaker name. Do I still think people would rather, and maybe Braun himself, be a Steiner? Sure. But you know what? He used the fact that he's Braun Breaker, and he's had success as Braun Breaker in NXT, now on Raw, to say, I don't need my family. I don't have to live off that name. That's a nice talking point there. I can do this on my own. But, Jay, it doesn't look like you can. And there's some truth to that. And what I wondered about this, because you have Braun Breaker, who the company is clearly very high in, who has benefited and done well in his booking for the last 6 months. They think he can be a big star. Okay, book him accordingly, and they are. But Jey Uso is also, obviously, while at a different point in his career versus Braun Breaker, also in a similar spot in that he is now getting that run on his own as a singles competitor. And he's over. And he's got more merch than just about anybody in the company not named Cody Rhodes. And that's obviously doing well, so they see a lot in him. But now you have two people at similar trajectories at the same time. Take away the experience. You're at the same time building a babyface in his first real singles run, while at the same time you're building Braun Breaker in his first singles run on the main roster. They are kind of running parallel in that way. Sure, Jay's got 14 years, but he was a tag wrestler for the most of that. For the majority of that. Almost all of it. He was a tag team wrestler. So you're building up two single stars at the same time. So what do you book for the finish of that match? Do you keep going with Braun Breaker, who's only been champion for a couple of months? If that, not even that, obviously. Do you keep going with that? Or do you make the move? Do you go with Jay? These two maybe traded back and forth for a couple of months. That could work. That's not a bad thing. Someone referenced this. I don't know if it was somebody that's in the chat right now or in a past episode. The idea of first-time champions not losing quickly. And I understood what they were getting at there. Part of me thinks that's about how established and how over that person is already. So, like, I had a discussion, and you'll hear this on the Hell in a Cell episode, just about where Triple H was, right? And we came up on the 25th anniversary of him winning his first championship. You know, he doesn't win it at SummerSlam 99. He wins it the next day on Raw. Ends up dropping it to the Big Show, as we know. And then wins it back in January. And then that of his run is that second run. And he takes it into WrestleMania and he wins. And then him and Rock trade it back and forth. But at that point, Hunter is already established as a top guy, as a main eventer, as a world champion, as had The Rock at that point. So they're going back and forth that way. But a Cody Rhodes, you know, you don't want him to be trading the title back and forth so early into his run. You don't. You know, they did it with Austin, right? But not for long. You know, they did it with Austin, with Kane, early in his run, just to pop a rating the next night. And he got the title back. And then, you know, months later, they did all that awful Kane Taker collusion. They both pin him, and then the title goes up in a singles match, and Austin won't do the count. So then it goes into the Survivor Series tournament, and then The Rock wins on a screw job to lead back to Austin, and then Rock and Mankind traded back and forth. That worked. It works better for a heel. So could Jay win the title next week? And then maybe him and Braun trade it back and forth for a few months. Yes, I think they could do that. But I think there are potentially some seeds that were planted last night. In that Jay maybe can't do it without his family. And maybe somebody brings that up to him. Let's say Braun wins next week. Judgment Day gets involved, whatever it might be, because he's obviously still in that business. That's an easy out. But maybe there is a feeling of I need family. And maybe that's how the recruitment begins. Maybe if we're going new bloodline versus whatever Roman squad is going to be, maybe that's how Jay realizes that family does matter. He should still have his own aspirations, but maybe he needs to get back to something, and maybe that's family. And I do wonder if the lines that were said last night by Braun Breaker planted some of those seeds. Because, Jay doesn't need to be Intercontinental Champion to go back and help Roman. That's a separate story. Part of me even thinks that Jay doesn't need a title right now. Because I see a lot of people, he should be champ. He should have it. A title just to have a title doesn't matter. It's not necessarily about a push. That is about how you're presented. Are you in the main event? Are you being looked at as a top guy? A title doesn't necessarily make that. It does for some people, but I don't know if Jay needs the Intercontinental Championship right now. I think it's more important for Braun to have that because I think there could be bigger things in play for Jey Uso. Perhaps ending back up alongside Roman Reigns in War Games. Something else that I think they did a very good job with last night. And if you want people to sit up and take notice, if you want your fans to have something to sink their teeth into, that is just pure liquid pro wrestling to me. It has been, and once again last night, was Bronson Reed and Braun Strowman. Two giant dudes beating each other up. Two giant dudes that cannot literally be contained by a ring. They broke the ring to start the match. And Testor's like, well, we can't even have the match now. Who cares? They filmed the Strowman Express beautifully where you don't see Bronson because he has taken a human being out of the front row and chucked him at Braun to stop the Strowman Express. To then get put through the wall after that. To then fight into the technical area and get put through God knows what cases. To then fight into the back and Braun's flipping over a cart and he turns around to a perfectly timed splash through a table. All of that was spot after spot of fun. That had nothing to do with the match, nor should it. Just like when Bronson squashed Braun on that car a couple of weeks ago. It had nothing to do with the match. I don't care. Sometimes wrestling's just about two people beating each other up. And when they're that big, it's fun. That was pure, unadulterated fun. That was such perfect pro wrestling. That is why you need wrestlers of different shapes and sizes and backgrounds. Not everybody needs to be built like Randy Orton or Drew McIntyre. You need a Bronson Reed. You need a Braun Strowman. You need a Kevin Owens. You need a Rhea Ripley. You need a Damian Priest. You need a Sami Zayn. You need a Gunther. Matchups make everything. People who don't look like they would match up right can come together and work as a tag team or work as great opponents. Braun Strowman and Bronson Reed are two massive dudes. Let them do massive dude stuff. And they did. And it's fun. And how would the crowd not? Like, just think about that. All right, going to go to the show tonight. One guy is going to break the turnbuckle in the first 5 seconds. Then that guy's going to throw someone in the crowd into the big guy. Then they're going to go crashing through a wall. Then they're going to go crashing through cases. Then a golf cart's going to get flipped over. But as soon as the golf cart gets flipped over, someone is going to get put through a table. And then they're going to keep fighting. Nerdy Dude, I agree. A last man standing match between Bronson and Braun. I don't know if there has been a better build to a match that I'm not even sure if it's happening. But everything they have done, everything, is exactly what I would want the build to be for a last man standing match. Can you put the monster down and keep him down? The idea of one of them going down and you throw a bunch of stuff on them and Braun comes out through tables and ring stuff and carts and cases and I'm not done yet. He gets up at night, like that kind of stuff. What is it going to I could just hear commentary. What is it going to take to keep one of these monsters down for 10 seconds? This place can't even hold them. Last man standing match or falls count anywhere anyway. But that has already been built. They have to do it. They could go 20 minutes battling throughout the building, taking things down. You gimmick whatever you need to. You shoot stuff ahead of time. They can do it. They have proven that they match up well. I believe that Bronson could take down Braun. I believe that Braun is strong enough to take down Bronson. And what we have seen so far is two monsters absolutely throwing whatever they can at the other guy. And if anybody gets in their way, they're going to be collateral damage. Watch out for the shrapnel, because these two guys are focused on each other, and they're going to use whatever they can to take the other guy down. And if that happens in the ring, okay. And if it happens going through a guardrail, okay. And if it happens on a car, okay. Let them go. It is very much Godzilla King Kong. Let them destroy the city. And I will say that the crowd, because they're so into it, enhances that much more. I said it recently. You get two big guys and they just battle each other, and they're throwing bombs and anything, and that goes to a double countout, and they keep brawling, people are going to be into that. That's what we've been getting. It has not been about being between those three ropes. Don't need it. Let them go. And it should get Bronson over. Kaiju movies. There you go. Nerdy Dude bringing it up. That's exactly what this is. And it's different than anything else on the show. It stands out. I've never been a fan of, WWE's the land of giants. That's how it used to be in the 80s and the 90s, right? The land of the giants. Well, if everybody's big, then it doesn't matter as much. And then, obviously, things got smaller, and you see smaller wrestlers. But then when you have guys like Bronson Reed and Braun Strowman, now those two big guys stand out more, and you could do stuff with that, and you get the enjoyment of what we saw last night. To me, Braun Strowman and Bronson Reed is perfect pro wrestling. And I hope we get more of it, and I hope it goes to a last man standing match, because I think those two guys are made for each other at this point in time in their careers. And I think the crowd is with all of it. All right. Moving away from Raw. Nerdy Dude asked about the American-made whatever. I feel like they're trying to separate them from the Wyatt Six. It's a bit over the top. You don't want them to be goofy, because Chad's already been goofy. Chad's already been a comedy character with Otis and all the stuff they did, and the stuff they did with Randy and Riddle and the spelling bee, and they were great at it. Don't get me wrong. But you now need to establish who American Made is outside of the Wyatts. And I know the Wyatts they hinted at a woman, they hinted at a man, um, follow the codes, all that stuff. That feels like it should be over. And here's saying they're done with the Wyatt 6. Okay, cool. What I like about it is that they just lost, but they didn't get wiped out by the Wyatt 6. They just lost. And because of how good Chad is as a talker and how they're being presented, it hasn't hurt them. Now they move on. But what do they move on to? Who do you run American Made up against? We'll see about that. LWO, maybe. Obviously, LWO is pointed at Judgment Day right now, but they can run afoul of them, whatever. But I think they have something in American Made. And what they were tasked to do with the Wyatt 6, I think they did a good enough job with that. Now we see where the Wyatt 6 go after this. But let's get into the AEW TV deal news that came out yesterday. I want to read this correctly so I have it all, because this came from John Orland, who John Orland has covered TV media stuff, all that, for quite some time. So here's what we're looking at right now. John Orland, who has a newsletter called Puck, reports AEW's new media deal. I'm reading this from Brandon Thurston's tweet with Warner Brothers. Quote, looks like it will be a 4-year deal, 3 years guaranteed, 1-year option, 170 per year is apparently in the ballpark. AEW will air on TNT and TBS, which you already know about, and True TV twice per week as part of a strategy to make True TV more sports-oriented. The announcement of the deal could come as soon as next week, barring last-minute changes. AEW is pitching an additional package to broadcast networks. The report at one point refers to AEW as, quote, second-tier wrestling, though. Orland writes that the deal would be a clear success for AEW. So, it's an increase. I have heard some of the things about maybe Rampage goes away or gets repackaged or whatever. I have heard an extra hour maybe getting it onto Dynamite. Obviously, nothing is concrete. Now, the True TV thing, I could see wrestling people who don't know what they're talking about, or people who want to just bash AEW. Oh, True TV. They are making a concerted effort to make True TV a Turner Sports channel. So TNT, yes, has had the NBA, and they have hockey, the NHL, and TBS has shown baseball and all that stuff. They've had sports and sports-related programming with AEW on those networks, but they want to make True TV into more of their sports network. And they have a football package on there now, a college football package on there now. And the last few years, the NCAA men's basketball tournament has been broadcast on True TV. So I think it makes sense to now put another property that is sports-related on True TV. Now, what that will be, I don't know. Is that classic AEW? Classic. It's been around for 5 years. Is it first-run programming that is maybe more outside the ring stuff? You think about what WWE has, right? You got Raw, you got NXT, you got SmackDown, you got Main Event. But you have talk shows. You have digital things. You have best of, stuff like that. Maybe that's the kind of stuff. True TV runs what? Practical Jokers all the time. You can run AEW marathons of stuff. Hey, here's this pay-per-view from however many years ago. That's on tonight. You want to build your brand? You want to build up your company? If you're Turner, you want to build that stuff up even more? Show old stuff on True TV. Why not? Pluto TV, right? There's an Impact Wrestling channel on there. I think there still is. They run old wrestling stuff all the time. They run pay-per-views. They run all that episodes of Impact. They run all TNA stuff. I could see True TV doing that. I think AEW would benefit from having some kind of reruns or whatever. Whatever's in their library the last 5 years running on True TV. AEW from the vault, whatever. AEW best of Bryan Danielson. AEW here is Hangman. AEW here's the best ladder match. Stuff like that. That's easy to do. You get a host in there. Beginning of the show, middle of the show, end the show, little introduction about that kind of stuff. You can air that on True TV all the time. And people will find it. And it then directs them to Dynamite, to Collision, to the pay-per-view. So I think that makes AEW even more valuable if they go in that direction. Pluto, nerdy dude, if you don't know, Pluto is a free television service that has basically channels of genres, like any normal channel, but just they have specific channels to Pluto. So like Impact has a channel, and there's a World Poker Tour channel. So they just run old poker stuff, and Impact has old TNA stuff, and some of them are like, these are comedy movies, and it's a free. Now they run ads and stuff on it, but like you don't have to pay for Pluto. And there's so many channels on there of different genres and stuff, but TNA happens to have a channel on Pluto TV. So they just run old stuff. So because of that, like I didn't know that Impact wasn't in Germany. They just happen to have a channel. They've had it for a couple of years now, where it's just here's old TNA stuff from the last 20 years. That's all they show. Nothing's new. Nothing's first run. Here's this episode of Impact. Here's, this episode or this pay-per-view. Here is the best of Christopher Daniels. Like, they just run that stuff on this channel all the time. I think AEW can do something similar on True TV. Every whatever night or every, weekday at 3 o'clock, here's AEW programming from their archives. Like I said, MTV, right? They have, what's that? They run those shows at Rob Dyrdek all the time. Those clip shows. All the time. True TV runs Impractical Jokers, it feels like, all the time. Throw some AEW in there a couple days a week. Throw some old AEW there a couple days a week. And they're still on TBS. They're still on TNT with Collision and with Dynamite and all that stuff. But it seems like the numbers are going up. And then, what does it mean for the pay-per-view deal? What does it mean for the rest of the, library? I think they could have a streaming service, nerdy dude. Here's what I would say to that. I think you want to see them end up on Max. Now, there's two things here. Much like the WWE Network, you have the library of everything you've ever done and whatever you've acquired, which WWE has obviously done with the network and then Peacock and all that stuff. But then you also have first-run programming. Primarily, the pay-per-views. So there's two things that you can offer up. You can offer up your library to go on Max, and then you could offer up, hey, a reason to get Max and pay whatever it is a month is because you're going to get the AEW pay-per-views, or that's a separate tier. So it's two things that they can offer. And who's to say they don't offer the full library, but also, hey, by the way, on True TV on 3 o'clock every weekday, we show this from AEW history. It can be both. Because there will be people that have Max and don't have True TV or vice versa. So it can be both. It's kind of like there was something called the linear feed of the WWE Network. I don't think people really use it anymore for Peacock or whatever, but it's basically when the network was a thing, as the primary thing, there would be a schedule. This is on at this time. This is on at this time. That was programmed to show on a schedule. But for the most part, people just went on demand and found what they wanted to watch. That's the point of it. AEW could do that. They won't on Max, but they could just say, hey, we're going to pluck this out from the library, and this is on True TV every Wednesday. So they have a lot to offer. Obviously, that's being discussed. Will they go with another show on another network? That's a possibility. Sounds like FS1 is in play with that. That's Shockwave. I don't know how much more time they need to lock it down or if it's finalized or whatever, but you want to have a whole plan to trot all that stuff out there. You also need to make sure that, hey, if we're going to launch on Max and we're going to put the pay-per-views on there or we're going to put our library on there, that takes time. That might be, hey, we're coming to Max in summer of next year. That's something that takes so much work. I was around WWE. Like the Peacock move. Yeah, Peacock. I was there when Peacock became a thing. To take all of that stuff and move it over, it takes a lot of manpower, a lot of bandwidth, and a lot of money. I'm sure WWE is dealing with similar stuff with Netflix right now. So that also might be about logistics and what does AEW have in terms of manpower to make that kind of stuff happen. Then you might need to hire third-party stuff, and that's boring logistical stuff. But that might take time. We might find out about this deal. All right, Dynamite's getting a third hour. Let's just say hypothetical. And Collisions, whatever it is. And we're going to announce these specials are happening. We're also going to have programming on True TV. You could do all of that tomorrow with nothing changing and no extra work. But to then say, also, the pay-per-views are going to Max. Okay, not that big of a deal, but you also need to maybe test some of that stuff out. But also our library is going to Max. That would take time. And that's not going to be something you can say, it's all there at once. It happened with the WWE Network. Stuff got added. More stuff got added. Some stuff got taken off. Some stuff never made it there. And that's what they do. But that could take time. So we might get an announcement about that, or they might be trying to get their ducks in a row of, all right, if we do this, when can we get it done by? But it is positive so far. I'm happy to hear it. It sounds like we're going to find out about it soon. They obviously have a little more time between now and their next pay-per-view. It's about over a month away. I know they have Grand Slam coming up, so might be trying to get those ducks in a row. But a positive sign there on the reporting from John Orland from Puck. All right, well, I appreciate everybody joining me today, whether you're watching live as a Matt member, whether you're watching later on. We're always here at 1 o'clock Eastern, but if you're a Matt member, sometimes you get perks like this, being on early. If you want to be a member and want to get perks like this, come to the WrestlingMatchShow.com. If you're listening in the podcast, come over to the WrestlingMatchShow.com. You can go back and listen, see past episodes. You're missing out there if you're just listening. And if you're just watching and you want to have, be a little more portable, I'm a podcast guy. I listen to all my stuff in podcast form. Go rate, review, and subscribe to the podcasts on the Believe Network, wherever you get your podcasts. Become a Matt member. Coming up the next 2 days. Tomorrow, as I said, have an episode for you about my top 5 Hell in a Cell matches. Love to hear about yours, your favorite performers, your favorite matches, your favorite moments. Thursday, we'll be doing my top 5 wrestlers of the year so far. Want to hear your thoughts on that. Friday, we'll be back live. AEW thoughts coming off of Dynamite, where we're going with WWE and SmackDown. Any other news? We'll break it all down for you. Make sure you rate, review, subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Thanks for listening on there. Make sure you are subscribed for free to the WrestlingMatchShow.com and become a member starting at just $2.99. Mr. McMahon Netflix doc react next week. And stay tuned. Should have some information in the next day or two on our socials at WrestlingMat23 about when we're going to do our next live watch party. Could be as soon as Friday. So with that being said, I'll be back to talk about wrestling tomorrow, even more as I speak like Yoda and totally mess that up. I'll be back tomorrow to talk about wrestling even more right here on the Wrestling Mat. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.